We are back at it.
You expect to not get your teeth kicked in on your home field by Tulsa!
Champions of the Big 12.
This is not the 1980s OSU.
Zach Robinson, a lot of time going deep for Des Bryant. He's open. Diving catch. Touchdown, Oklahoma State.
We are back at it. Welcome back to another edition of the Pistols Firing Podcast. I'm Carson Cunningham, joined as always by Colby Powell. Colby, how you doing on this Sunday?
Pretty good, yeah. Good weekend. Had fun yesterday at Boone Pickens Stadium, despite the result of the game. And, I got to watch another good college football game yesterday afternoon. Now it's NFL day. So, yeah, just kind of a chill weekend at the Powell house. How are the Cunninghams?
We're good. We had kind of a surprise birthday party for my wife, Sydney, over at our friend's house. The Jalusis family hosted us, and we watched OU Texas, which I was the only Cowboy over there, so all the Sooners were disappointed. But I didn't have much to clap back about, clearly, because OSU was already done and dusted at that point. Oh, you're hooking them. Okay.
I mean, I don't care if OSU is bad. I'll still make fun of OU when they lose to Texas. Because here's the thing. Our games don't matter right now, so our losses don't hurt. They felt real pain yesterday, and, that makes me feel a little bit better. So, I mean, but you're a better person than I am. We've established this.
Well, unpopular opinion, I've always rooted for Oklahoma and OU Texas because I'm an Oklahoman. And I've had to be around Texas fans probably more than most OSU people, just from covering OU, covering OSU. When they play Texas, I had to go to Austin many times. They're every bit as bad, if not worse, than Sooner fans. So I'm happy for some state pride to be on the line for Oklahoma if they win that game, because now it doesn't really affect us at all, I guess, Big 12 wise. But I can't root for Texas. I just can't.
See, I'm the exact opposite. I grew up with an uncle who was like the most obnoxious OU fan in the history of OU fans, and that kind of shaped my experience with OU fans. Meanwhile, the one Texas person in my life, especially as an adult, who I've been around, is just a wonderful person. Shout out to Matt. You're a great person, and totally reasonable Texas football fan. So I've had like the worst exposure to the worst, most obnoxious OU fan, and the best exposure to the nicest, most kind Texas fan. So that, combined with my general bedlam dislike of Oklahoma, has made it very easy for me to root for the Longhorns in that game.
Well, I certainly know I'm in the minority, but, I certainly understand your sentiment as well. But Oklahoma State has their own problems, which we will get to. We need to get into the Oklahoma State-Houston game. We need to get into kind of what's been going on with the quarterback position, and as well as just one of the great moments in Boone Pickens Stadium history you wouldn't think would come from a blowout, embarrassing loss once again. But it did, and we'll get to that as well. But first, let's hear from Chris's University Spirit, your one-stop Cowboy shop. Be sure to shop at chrisuniversityspirit.com. All day, every day, you can get free shipping on 75 orders on $75 or more. Be sure to shop at Chris's. They got all the gear you would need for homecoming week coming up. You want to be doled out, they got the homecoming T-shirts as well. So be sure to stop by Chris's University Spirit for all your Oklahoma State needs, and they've been a long-time sponsor of the show, so we appreciate Chris's as always. Colby, let's get right to it. I mean, not a whole lot to break down here. Oklahoma State hosting Houston, new quarterback Sam Jackson, the full-time, named the starter. You and I were kind of banding about last week on all the options they could do with him and just how they could make this offense somewhat representable, if that's the best word to use. But the Sam Jackson train went off the rails, just kind of like the Zane train. But hey, they did score first. They scored a touchdown on a trick play, and we were thinking, hey, maybe they got something here. But as we kind of assumed that the trickeration would run out and run its course, and that's basically what happened. Just what was your kind of assessment overall of the offense with Sam Jackson and just kind of where we stand today with it?
Really disappointed in the game plan offensively from Oklahoma State. I thought Sam Jackson, for a large majority of that game yesterday, was asked to just stand there and be a pocket passer. And all the things we talked about last week about playing to the strengths of your quarterback, I just didn't think any of that happened yesterday. The zone read was basically not a part of the offense. Very rarely did they have anyone going horizontally, making Houston defend the entire field, using some jet sweeps to hold those linebackers a little bit. Sam Jackson was not used nearly enough in the design run game. I mean, they had him dropping back and taking 3- and 5-step drops, trying to plant his feet and throw 20-yard outs up the sideline. I thought that they were asking him to do something that was totally not what his skill set is. He doesn't have a laser arm. He's got a good enough arm, but he doesn't have a laser arm. He's not particularly accurate because he hasn't played quarterback in 3 years. He's been a wide receiver, and he runs a 4.5. I think maybe you should lean into the running element of what you have back there at quarterback instead of trying to make him a thrower. I understand you played from behind for a good chunk of that game, but I mean, Oklahoma State was halfway through that second quarter, tied at 10. Oklahoma State had a drive where they nearly went down and took the lead on a touchdown, a brutal holding call on a Trent Howland run that would have got them down to the 1-yard line, brought it back and kind of derailed that drive. But there were chances in that second quarter for Oklahoma State to really be a real part of that game and maybe make Houston get tight if you could really participate offensively. If you could let your defense sit on the sidelines for a little bit, play some complimentary football instead of leaving your defense out there the entire game. So, yeah, I was disappointed in the offensive game plan, and I did not think it played into Sam Jackson's skill set whatsoever.
I didn't either. And, look, he has some arm talent. Some of those early throws, that one he threw across his body, he has some ability. And I'm totally with you. It just seems like they're trying to middle it. As far as, let's run him in a different style of offense, but also let's just run what we've been running with Zane Flores in a lot of ways. So I'm totally with you on that. It's disappointing because I thought they had a real opportunity to get really creative, and they do that for spells, and it just seems like they don't want to fully go away from what Doug Meacham really knows. They don't want to go full Kansas State, like with the Colin Klein style of offense. So it's overall, it just was disappointing. How many carries did Trent Howland get, by the way?
Trent Howland wound up with, you're going to love this, Carson. He had 1 carry for 1 yard. His big one got brought back on the holding call. So 1 carry for 1 yard for Trent Howland, 14 carries for 44 yards for Rodney Fields. Sessi had 7 carries, although they came late.
Yeah, what happened with that? What happened with Trent Howland, Doug Meacham's first game against Baylor? We're like, wow, they finally got it to one of their best, if not their best running back. And it seemed like they found something with him. And every time he's been handed the football, he's made things happen. So to me, it's getting to the point, Colby, where we've been asking this question about Trent Howland for 3 years now. Why doesn't this guy get more carries? Why doesn't this guy more carries? Now, I'm not at practice. Maybe he's not doing the things that you're supposed to do day in, day out, on and off the field. I don't know. It has to be something along those lines because he's proven he's your best option to move the chains. And that to me is, besides the quarterback, not getting Trent Howland the football is the reason Oklahoma State's offense stinks and is one of the worst in the country. They're not playing their best running back. And so, again, maybe there's something going on behind the scenes that you and I don't know about, but 1 carry, 1 yard to Sessi Vailahi, I know a lot of that was in mop-up duty. He got 7 carries. Rodney Fields, 14. Rodney had 3.1 yards per carry. You got to get Trent Howland out there. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, looking from the outside, it looks so obvious that your best bet to run the ball and to pick up some first downs, to keep your offense on the field. Oklahoma State has to find a way to extend time of possession, to extend drives, to keep their offense on the field. The defense is dying, man. I mean, again, another hot one yesterday at Boone Pickens Stadium. It was hot in that stadium. 11 o'clock kick, sun high in the sky. I know it was hot down on that turf. And you're just asking your defense to do a lot whenever you can't pick up first downs and sustain drives. And the best way to do that is right now to use Sam Jackson and Trent Howland in the zone read. And we just didn't see it yesterday. It did not exist as part of this offense. Doug Meacham talked after the game about how they've got to get Rodney Fields some more touches in some rudimentary situations where he can just get downhill and go. And I totally disagree. I think that's exactly what hasn't been working, is to just give the ball to your back on a standard run play and hope that he can get downhill. I don't know. Like you said, I think your point that they're trying to middle it, I totally agree. They're not fully committing to, okay, this is what our team looks like today. This is our personnel. How do we take this personnel, maximize their skill set in order to sustain drives and score points? I don't think they're doing that. I think that they're trying to make their personnel fit what they want to do offensively, and it's not working. I mean, they totally flopped yesterday. They scored 1 touchdown on the first drive of the game on a trick play, busted coverage on the back end by Houston. They did not score. I mean, Noah Walters in the fourth quarter, 2 thumbs up. Awesome. Late garbage time touchdown. But the real game that was being played, the real offense that Oklahoma State ran out there, did not score any real touchdowns after that 1 trick play early in the game. And yet, they continued to do the same thing for 3 quarters. And I fear, Carson, that they're going to come out and they're going to try to do the same thing next Saturday against Cincinnati. Doug Meacham talked after the game that Sam Jackson just needs to get the reps again, and hopefully he'll get better. He expected some of those mistakes. Look, you expect some of those mistakes. Why are you asking him to do some of those things that put him in that position? Put him in a position to be successful. Let him run the zone read with Trent Howland. Have a wide receiver, one of your 11, in motion on every play. Run some jet sweeps. Get the defense off balance a little bit. That is why the first half against Baylor was successful. The defense was off balance. And now you've gotten back to just trademarking what you're going to do. The defense knows what's coming, and you don't have some kind of special passer back there at quarterback. The more we talk about it, the more I'm frustrated with yesterday's game plan and the inability or unwillingness to just totally punt on what you thought your offense was going to be and adjust to what your offense should be based on personnel.
Yeah, of course. And I will say this, like, I understand the situation Sam Jackson's been thrown into. He's trying to play wide receiver, and you could tell with all the intricacies that come in with playing quarterback came into play. They got flagged for a pair of delay of game penalties. He had an intentional grounding after he got out of the pocket, failed to throw it away past the line of scrimmage. He also had this quick screen attempt to Gavin Freeman, but the ball was like 6 feet over Gavin Freeman's head, and I guess Dave Hunziker on the radio broadcast called it a wild pitch. Like that's what you're dealing with. And to your point, I think there are ways to get him easier throws, although that one was, just a quick screen. So like I can understand where Doug Meacham's sitting right today saying like, I'm pretty limited here on some of my calls. I can't really test the team deep a whole lot. I understand all of those things, but I do think there's ways that Sam Jackson can grow back into the role of being a quarterback. I think there's ways that Doug Meacham can certainly kind of grow into calling plays that certainly would be more suited to Sam. And all that said, though, Colby, it was tied at 10 with 6 minutes left to go in the first half. They found themselves down 24-10 with about 3 game minutes later between the end of the first half and the start of the second. So it was one of those stretches, kind of like the Baylor game, where you're in it, and then it just collapses around you. So it's just, and Clint Bowen on defense, like I think his hands are tied even more so than Doug Meacham's, frankly, with the amount of departures they've had on the defensive side of the ball. We didn't mention Josh Ford entered the transfer portal, Stillwater's own, on our last podcast. That's a factor on the offense as well. But let's not pretend like they throw the tight end like Jay Novacek in the 90s with the Cowboys or anything. Yeah, I remember going on the Sports Animal pregame show back when Blake Jarwin was the tight end, saying, this guy's going to play in the NFL, and they don't throw it to him. I don't understand. And sure enough, he had more catches in the NFL than at Oklahoma State. So that's been a problem for a long time. I'm not saying Josh Ford's the missing link, but I like Clint Bowen, but there's just not a whole lot he can do, right, Colby, with all the departures and everything that's going on. I mean, they did throw some different things, I thought, at Houston early. They mentioned that on the radio broadcast as well, that they were lining up in some stuff that they hadn't really shown all year. So once you get past your first few wrinkles and they start to figure out the OSU defense, they just don't have the talent. I mean, they're literally the worst defense in the country. I mean, they've given up. Let me go to Boone Pickens Stadium here. Show our great statistics here I put on the board. So yeah, OSU has allowed 38 points or more their last 11 Big 12 games. They've lost 13 of 14 games total, counting the UT Martin game. But I mean, regardless of what they're doing on offense, Colby, it doesn't really matter a whole lot because they can't stop anybody.
Yeah, they can't stop anybody, and I don't think there's a lot to talk about with the defense, quite honestly. 36 and a half minutes of time possession for Houston yesterday, 27 first downs to 10, 487 total yards to 225. I think Clint Bowen is just doing the best he can, trying to prevent big plays. There weren't guys running wide open yesterday, but there was just, 1, 2, 3 yards of separation between receivers and defensive backs. And, man, Connor Wegman was throwing a good deep ball. A couple of those were pretty decent coverage, just on-the-money throws. Back-to-back possessions there late in the first half. You get one-handed touchdown catches from Houston. The tight end over the middle reaches up behind him, and then the receiver on the sideline tucks it into his ribs. The receiver on the sideline, that was – I say it was great coverage. There was pass interference on that play, so it probably would have been a first and goal anyway. I don't know where the ball was before that snap, but it was a well-played game by Wegman, so some good balls down the field. I think Bowen is doing all that he can. I think the adjustments on offense that have to be made are far more severe than the adjustments on defense. I actually thought, Carson, that for about 25 minutes of game time, the defense fought and gave the offense a chance to do something to make that a football game. I thought until about the 5-minute mark of the second quarter, the defense was like, all right, we're trying, we're holding, we're forcing some punts. You get the dropped punt, you kick the field goal, that gets you a few. You get a shanked punt out of bounds. Like Oklahoma State forced a few punts there in a row. The defense was like, we're here, we're trying, give us something, give us anything, offense, a reason to keep us in this game. And, again, the offense just couldn't do it, and eventually the defense is going to fold because they're not a good enough defense. They're on their third coordinator in their last 6 games going back to last season. Like, there's just not enough on that side of the ball. But I thought for 25 minutes they fought hard and gave the offense a chance to have a pulse. Obviously, the offense couldn't do it, and then the defense ended up caving in. So it is what it is. They're bad on both sides of the football right now, but I think – I think the upside is there on offense if some adjustments can be made. I think the defense kind of is what it is, and at some point, if you're going to beat somebody, it's going to be one of two ways. Haas Haney is going to come back, and he's going to be a superhero. That's one way. By the way, we got corrected last week on Twitter. I don't have it pulled up in front of me. Thank you to whoever pointed this out. Haas Haney has used a red shirt, so the question would be whether if he doesn't come back, he could apply for a medical red shirt. Kind of depends. Timelines, things of that nature, that would be up to the NCAA. I don't want to speculate there. But that's one of two ways, is Haas Haney comes back and he's an absolute superhero. The other way is that Oklahoma State truly goes to a run-centric offense with Sam Jackson, Trent Howland, receivers in motion, just a really ground assault with some passing mixed in there. The old Kansas State offense, I think, is what it has to be. I don't think they're willing to do that, but those are the two ways I can see the offense being successful enough to give the defense a fighting chance to maybe one of these days only spend 28 or 29 minutes on the field, and then maybe if they're on the field for 7 or 8 less minutes, now maybe all of a sudden you could win a game 31-30 instead of having to win it 45-42, something of that nature. So I think the adjustments to me still have to come on the offensive side of the ball because I really don't know what you can do with that defense right now.
Yeah, and that's what I said last week. Like, run the ball 4 times and go for it. Like, your defense is terrible. You keep them off the field as long as possible. Go for it on every 4th down unless you're on your own 15 or 20. But, yeah, run the ball with Trent Howland, Rodney Fields. That's the strength of your offense. It is. Like, that has to happen. And to put a bow on the defense, Houston had 39 points, 485 yards. They're both season highs. So, essentially, the Stephen F. Austin and Rice defenses handled Houston better than Oklahoma State. That's where we're at, Colby. Stephen F. Austin and Rice defenses are better than Oklahoma State. And to tie up this game and sum up where Oklahoma State is, we've talked about Kansas under after Mark Mangino when they had Turner Gill and all those jokers up there. Between 2009 and 2021, Kansas went 8-106 in Big 12 games. This is from Marshall Scott on his 10 Thoughts. I encourage everyone to read it. He kind of goes more in depth on the game as well. But KU went 1-11 in 2017. That's the year they beat an FCS team to start the season, 11 straight losses by a combined score of 505 to 186. So that's an average of 28-point deficit in those 11 losses. OSU's average deficit this year in 5 losses, 28.2. And even more irony on this, Colby, Doug Meacham and Cliff Bowen were the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator of that 2017 Kansas team.
I know. This is
Oklahoma State is Kansas bad. The gold standard of being bad in the Big 12 is Kansas during that stretch, and that's where Oklahoma State is. That's where we are. And in order to heal and to process is admittance. And it's time to admit that Oklahoma State has fallen to a point where they are Kansas bad. And I know firing Mike Gundy, you've had portal departures, but the fact that it was even close to this point, it was already at this point last year, frankly. How did it get this bad? How in the world did they spend millions of dollars on a roster and they're this bad? I make it make sense. I don't understand how they could be this inept. And I certainly understand the quarterback position. That gets you beat in a hurry. But besides that, Colby, they can't even like force a punt. Like, I just don't understand how you can get to Turner Gill, Kansas bad. I really don't.
Yeah, they're a non-functional football team. In every possible scenario, every possible run out for Oklahoma State football, like this is the worst run out. It could not go any worse than what it is right now. We are living through the dark ages. And just recently, we were celebrating victory in the final Bedlam ever, forever Bedlam champs, and that was so much fun. And, I mean, we're less than 2 calendar years removed from that, and we're Turner Gill, Kansas. And we're Doug Meacham and Clint Bowen, Kansas. And Carson, trust me, I knew what you were going to say, and the parallels are not lost on me that Doug Meacham and Clint Bowen have been at the helm for 2 of the worst seasons maybe in the history of modern college football. The good news, I do think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I really do. You're about to just fully press the reset button on this program. And trust me, Oklahoma State pressing the reset button is nothing like Kansas trying to dig themselves out of 10 years of irrelevancy, okay? This is Oklahoma State pressing the reset button on 18 months of what just happened there. Oklahoma State has money. Oklahoma State has facilities. Oklahoma State has interest. Oklahoma State's a good job. I continue to hear murmurings that Chad Weiberg has just kind of whispered in some ears that this is a job that is gaining tons of interest, that people would be shocked at how much interest there is around the country for people to come to Oklahoma State, a program that has been first rate for the past 15 years, and come in and totally revive it. Because also, you're coming in and you have a chance as a coach from a public perception standpoint to come in and take what is Turner Gill, Kansas, what is right now the worst Power 4 program in the country, and you can turn it around in a year or two if things go right. If you get a quarterback who does some good things, you get some donors who get really excited and give some money, you turn the roster over immediately, things that you couldn't do in 2017 whenever Kansas was dealing with this. I do think there's a light at the end of the tunnel because I do think that there's a reset button that can be pressed pretty quickly. I'm not going to pick Oklahoma State to go 9-3 next year, but I guarantee you this, I'm going to be optimistic going into next season because I already know what's going to happen in the offseason. Oklahoma State's going to go get a new, young, hungry head coach who's going to come in. Donors are going to give money. Fans are going to give money. They're going to turn the roster over. And, again, that's not – I don't think all of a sudden going to immediately lead to a 10-win season or anything like that. But I think next season, 2026, Oklahoma State will put a competent product on the field. And in the meantime, let's all take our shirts off and have a good time and just accept that we're in the dark ages for a little bit longer, and it is what it is. Let's just try to have some fun with it.
We will get to that in just one second. You know who else is competent? Our friends at Brewster Consulting Group. Do any of these sound familiar at your company? Our processes are manual and inefficient with no documentation, or our data reporting takes forever and is not accurate, or you hear all the hype about AI but have no clue what it actually means for your business. Well, Brewster's projects always do not run over. Sorry, if your project runs over time and over budget. If so, talk with our friends at Brewster Consulting Group. They help build organizations that run like well-oiled machines with clear processes, reliable data and reporting, and technology that actually works for you. They have local clients like the Tulsa International Airport and Medify. They've also delivered solutions for large international enterprises like DP World. Even better, they're founded and ran by a proud Oklahoma State alum and season ticket holder. Wonder if he was in the stands swinging his shirt over his head. Learn more about them at brewsterconsulting.com or learn more about their methodologies by connecting with them at Brewster Consulting Group on LinkedIn or YouTube. So, Colby, you were there at the game, and you started texting me, pictures of the crowd early on, and then lo and behold, the broadcast starts showing all these dudes swinging their shirts over their head. And at this point, I'm kind of half paying attention, and I'm like, "Oh, that's fun." The students are getting after it. But this thing went viral, and I want to show kind of the time lapse of it because you told me it was just 2 guys that started out in this one section by themselves. And let's see here. That's Colby. Here we go. Here's the time lapse. It starts out with these 2 guys, and it turns into 4. And this is from Tyrell on Twitter. Put this time lapse up. and it just starts pouring in. The fans just start pouring in, like, "Hey, you know what? We're in this together. We're taking our shirts off, twisting it over our heads." And I had to just capture the TV broadcast and put it to Petey Pablo's "Raise Up." North Carolina, come on and raise up. This was awesome, Colby. Like true elite fandom from Oklahoma State. Just guys being dudes. You know what? We're terrible. Let's have some fun with this. The broadcast was loving it. The fans were loving it. And I don't think there's a finer display of Oklahoma State fandom than what we saw on Saturday, Colby. Like that was organic. It was hilarious. And I don't know, maybe a new tradition was born there. Maybe Larry Reese is, when they're done playing Garth Brooks between the third and fourth quarter, they'll play a little Petey Pablo and get everybody fired up.
Carson, it was an absolute vibe at Boone Pickens Stadium. It was wild to watch because what you can't see if you weren't there, just like on the videos that are posted, is the land rush that happened for everyone to claim their spot in Section 231. Like, it started with one guy goes up there. There's two guys up there. The first time they put him on the Jumbotron, there were two guys up there. And then 2 minutes later, they put him on the Jumbotron. There's four guys up there waving their shirts around their head, going crazy. All of a sudden, I looked over at my dad. I said, there's going to be 20 people up there within 2 minutes. I wasn't even close. There were 500 people up there. And Carson, once it became a thing and everyone realized it was going to be a thing, you could see we're sitting there in the west end zone, and people from the south side of the stadium are running in front of us. People from the south side are running all the way across Boone Pickens Stadium to get into Section 231. Section 231 could not hold the amount of people that got up there to take part in this. The Spirit Rider got up there with the Boone flag. A few cheerleaders went up there with the OSU flags. And it was, Carson, it's not like they just went up there and just stood shirtless. Carson, for 45 minutes, they were as if it was the last drive of the final Bedlam 2 years ago. They had a D up chant going. They're OSU Cowboys. Like, they are just wired for like 45 minutes. And I kept thinking, okay, they put them on the Jumbotron. This is going to die down. And I don't know if it was in your video you just showed there or not, where the Jumbotron operator put up a graphic on the screen with all the guys back there, and it said new world record, and in parentheses it said probably most shirtless guys in one section. And it was awesome. Doug Meacham talked about it after the game, said it was awesome. It was fun for the guys to see people getting fired up. Look, and I think everybody gets it, right? Like, as Oklahoma State fans, we all get where we're at right now. We're not going out and beating anybody. We're not playing for anything serious right now. Let's have a good time. And it was really awesome. To me, it was such an organic moment. I don't know how I feel about it becoming a tradition, because it was so organic that if it becomes a tradition, I think it could get played out. But I also think there's going to be plenty of room in Section 231 the rest of the year. So if it becomes a tradition and guys want to go up there and just guys being dude. I mean, Carson, there were 10-year-olds up there. There were 10-year-old boys up there, shirts off, whipping them around their heads, just going nuts. It was I thought it was Oklahoma State fandom at its purest form.
Yeah, I saw Andrew Mitchell, the offensive line coach. His brother Justin and I are friends, and he posted on Instagram. He has a baby boy, and he had his shirt off. He was holding him, and he put the shirt in the kid's hand. The kid was twirling it like he had babies twirling their heads over their shirts over their heads. It was awesome. So that was, again, just Oklahoma State football. There was a young kid named Brady over at the house I was at. He was like 11. He's an OSU fan, and he just couldn't believe how bad they were. I'm like, son, this is what it was like when I was your age in the 90s. My first season I went to, they went 0-10-1. Sorry, do you have something?
So I just wanted to talk to you about the conversation that I had with Layla on the way home from the game yesterday. But finish your story. I just wanted you to know while we're on the topic.
Yeah, but then it dawned on me that he was like born the year that they won like the Big 12, so he doesn't really remember Brandon Whedon and those guys. I saw Brandon Whedon actually went and spoke, I think at Will Rogers Elementary School in Edmond, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then I thought, like, wait, these kids weren't born when Brandon was at OSU. Like, that's how time is a thief. So I tried to tell him, like, hey, OSU will be back. They're going to hire a new coach. They'll be good. But hey, this is good for you to learn what it's really been like for the rest of us as OSU fans.
Yeah, so took my daughter to the game yesterday. My wife had a bike ride picnic thing, so me and my daughter went up. She's 3 years old. Getting up there, nightmare. There was a wreck on 35, and it wasn't terrible. Like, once we got up there, a truck rear-ended a car, and there was some damage on the front, but everybody was outside their cars. It looked like everybody was fine. But where it happened in between Waterloo and Guthrie, like, there wasn't enough room on the shoulder for them to get all the way over, or they would have gone down one of those embankments. So they could only pull over where, like, half their car was sticking out into the lane, and then all the game day traffic hit. So it's about a 1-hour drive from my house to Boone Pickens Stadium. We left the house at 9:10, and we walked into the stadium at about 11:20. So that was a bummer that we ended up missing the first touchdown of the game. We were outside. We were walking to the stadium when the fireworks went off, when the boom happened, the cannons went off. Oklahoma State scored their first touchdown. So we missed the first touchdown. We didn't get to see Bullet run. So I'm with a 3-year-old, right? She wants to see Bullet run. She's with her cousin. Her cousin has told her, we got to see Bullet. We got to see Bullet. We got to see Bullet. We left before the Noah Walters touchdown. We left after the third quarter. So we didn't get to see Bullet run the whole time. And Carson, when I tell you for an hour on the way home, my 3-year-old, love her. She's the best. She's awesome. For an hour, she asked me, Daddy, why didn't Bullet run? So I explained to her, well, Bullet only runs when we score touchdowns. But why? Well, because that's just kind of the tradition. But why are we not scoring touchdowns? And I just finally had to tell her, baby, we're not scoring touchdowns because we're bad. We're bad right now, and that's why we're not scoring touchdowns. And it's a bummer, but we're going to be good again at some point, and then you'll get to see Bullet run a whole bunch. So, for an hour, we talked over and over again about why Bullet didn't run, about how Oklahoma State is bad, and that Bullet only gets to run when we score touchdowns. So she's really looking forward to a day in her life where Oklahoma State is back to scoring touchdowns, and she gets to watch Bullet run.
Yeah, that's a terrible, terrible indoctrination to Oklahoma State football lore for young Layla. I do remember when I went with you to the game, I was talking to your dad. When I was her age, Bullet ran like the Kentucky Derby down the field at Lewis Field. Like it was really something to like get out of your seat for. Like they had a dude on there going full bore all the way 100 yards down and then like 100 yards back. It was awesome. It's kind of slowed down to like a little trot, and I think there's obvious reasons for that safety wise. But I do miss the days where he was like Seabiscuit out there.
Yeah, that would be awesome to see now. I don't know. Maybe it's the turf, but they've had turf for a long time. I wonder why they went away from that safety with officials and, I don't know, cheerleaders and just the whole production that college football is. I'm sure it's a safety thing, but, it would be cool to watch Bullet take off and sprint down the field. But please, Doug Meacham, do something offensively. Do it for the kids, Doug. Do it for the kids. They want to see Bullet.
They do want to see Bullet. Let's get to Wolf Corporation, Colby, and then we'll break down the unis and get out of here.
Absolutely. Cowboy fans, if you're looking to sell or lease your commercial property, turn to Wolf Corporation, Oklahoma's trusted commercial real estate listing brokerage since 2010. Their experienced team specializes in showcasing your retail, office, or industrial space to the right buyers and tenants across the state, based right here in Oklahoma. Wolf delivers results with local expertise. Visit them at wolfcorporation.com. That's WULF corporation.com, or call 405-308-3480 today. Go Pokes. Carson, the unis, Oklahoma State. Hey, one thing, we look good. We always look good, Carson.
Yeah, and I had this thought during the game where I hope whoever the new head coach is keeps the equipment staff in place, because they've done just a remarkable job with Oklahoma State's uniforms, going back to the kind of the traditional, kind of 80s, 90s look that they currently have on the sleeves and everything. The helmets, like the helmet work that they're able to change up game in, game out, is just the best in the country. I love everything about the uniforms. The Doug Meacham rocking the single block O hat. I have to go find one of those. Apparently there's some up there in Stillwater. I got to go get me one of those. Next time you're up there, I might send you on a mission for one of those hats. His hat game's top notch. They look good. So I hope whoever the new head coach is, they keep the equipment staff, because they've really built a brand. And like OSU's branding, I've said this many times on this show, like they've come so far. Like we used to just only be able to get a few random kind of cheap looking like logos and gear wise. Now with like all the Nike stuff, I'm going to get into some of the stuff they're going to be unveiling next week for homecoming. Like this Wrestling Pete hoodie, like you couldn't have gotten this back when John Smith was like the coach in the 90s and the 2000s. Like I'm ready for wrestling season, obviously, but just the gear has taken on a new level. I love it.
Yeah, just you and I. We've got 3 different Petes on this show right now. I've got the standard Pete on my shirt. You've got wrestling Pete, and then I've got swinging Pete on the hat here. This is like the Augusta, the Masters version. I think when Hovland won the USAM and qualified is when they had these green hats available with the swinging Pete on them. So, yeah, the brand is amazing. The gear is amazing, and I agree. I hope the equipment staff stays on because Oklahoma State always looks good. Oklahoma State looked good yesterday in the black, orange. Again, it was very hot in Boone Pickens Stadium, Carson. We sat in the west end zone and we roasted. So I know they were hot on the field with those black lids on, black shirts, but they looked good. So can't take that away from us. Nobody can take that away from us.
And I don't know about you, but like black, orange is right up there with black, orange, black or all black for me. Like that just the orange pants to me are like the best article of clothing they have. So I love when they put the orange face mask on it to kind of sync up with the pants. So they look great. And Patriot Pete, I've been asking for Patriot Pete, and we got to see him, kind of what's on your shirt there. And so Mike Jalousis, whose house we were at, he's a New England guy, and so he's a huge Patriots fan, and he had Pat the Patriot on his koozie, and I said, hey, like OSU wore. I go, don't you think that looks like the OSU helmet today? And he was like, oh yeah, it kind of does. I go, from far away, like. I started calling it Patriot Pete back then when they first debuted because just from far away it looked like Pat the Patriot, that old school guy snapping the ball. And it's kind of funny, like that's what it's called now. Everyone just calls it Patriot Pete, even people associated with the football team. So that's been a really cool thing that's evolved over time. So, anything else we want to get to, Colby, before we get to some national stuff?
Not a whole lot. No, I think we pretty much covered it. Offense needs some work. Defense, keep doing the best you can. Fans, y'all are a vibe. Keep it up.
Yeah, we got homecoming next week. Again, I think the equipment folks in Oklahoma State, as far as licensing goes, has some more tricks up their sleeves for next week, which will be really fun. I'll get into some of that next week. But overall, just again, like you mentioned the Haas Haney red shirt. That's why like people have kept asking me, is he coming back? Like I don't think he would come back because the medical red shirt rule, it has to have been sustained in the first 5 weeks of the season, 6 weeks, which is clearly when his occurred, and it has to be season ending. So like if he comes back, that you can kiss goodbye a medical red shirt. So a Jones fracture in your foot, I think is an easy case to make if you don't play the rest of the year that this was season ending. So I wouldn't expect him back, just looking at it on the surface. I don't have any inside intel on that, but that's why I've kind of just ruled him out, because I think in the back of my mind, I kind of remembered that he had burned a red shirt, but I just didn't bring it up. But for me, I was looking more at the medical aspect because that's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, oversight on my part, not realizing he'd used his red shirt. I think I've kind of programmed my brain over the last 5 years since COVID to just not pay that close of attention to eligibility and need to get back into that. Things are getting a little more normalized on that front. So, yeah, look, I still hope he comes back because I hope we get to watch some good football this year. And if anything, just a little bit of a culture shift late in the season. If you could win a couple of games and not go 1-11, it'd sure be nice to not go 1-11. So I'd like him to come back. I'd like him to be a superhero. So we'll see what happens on that front. I just checked, Carson. Oklahoma State opens as a 21.5-point underdog, 7 o'clock at home against Cincinnati for homecoming. Feels about right. I think that's kind of where Oklahoma State's going to live. Vegas is, at some point, honestly, going to have to keep making these lines bigger. Oklahoma State's the worst team in the country against the spread since the start of last season, and these spreads continue to not be close. 14.5-point dogs this yesterday against Houston, not close. 20.5-point dogs to Arizona the week before, not close. The only time they've covered this year was against Baylor, and that was, the week after your coach gets fired, you run a million trick plays. So, yeah, at some point these lines are going to keep getting bigger because Vegas has been giving away money on Oklahoma State by these lines being too small. So 21.5 feels right.
I'm surprised it's not 28. Like I'm with you. Like I don't think that's high enough, and that number will probably climb, I would guess, as the week progresses. So
yeah, Cincinnati's decent.
Kind of where OSU is. Yeah, they beat somebody recently.
They beat Iowa State. They beat Iowa State, who then also lost to Colorado. So leave it to Iowa State to get off to a hot start and make everyone believe, and then just crush hopes and dreams.
Yeah, they finally beat Iowa on their home field. Hadn't done that in a long time. And then just the Big 12's terrible this year. Like I can't defend it. I'm a Big 12 defender.
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech's good. And again, they're kind of the model of what Oklahoma State needs to do and get their ducks in a row. You see Cody Campbell on the broadcast now with his ads. I love what he's doing going after the conference commissioners. I think Tech can be a real ally for Oklahoma State when it comes to conference realignment. They're two very similar schools, very similar fan bases. We like to jab Tech because they think we stole all of their traditions, but I think they're kind of the model of what Oklahoma State can be currently. I mean, Tech's going to win the Big 12 and go to the playoff. That's where Oklahoma State wants to be, and they've shown the prototype of how to do that. So we'll have to see. And so yeah, they look like the cream of the crop by far.
Yeah, Texas Tech could salvage the reputation of the entire conference if they could have some success in the playoff. Texas Tech so far in 6 games, they beat Arkansas Pine Bluff by 60. They beat Kent State by 48. They beat Oregon State by 31. They beat Utah by 24. They beat Houston by 24. And they beat Kansas by 25. Texas Tech is an absolute unit right now. Oklahoma State has Texas Tech in 13 days in Lubbock. Speaking of spreads, Oklahoma State's a 21.5-point home dog to Cincinnati. What is the line going to be? Well, we're going to guess right now, so because I don't want any chance for us to see it before we guess. What is the line going to be on Oklahoma State at Texas Tech in 13 days?
35.5.
That was the exact number that popped into my head was 35.5, and I even think, depending on how badly, if Oklahoma State loses 48-10 to Cincinnati and Texas Tech, who's Texas Tech got this week? Texas Tech is at Arizona State. If they go to Arizona State, now we'll see if Sam Levitt's back, but if they go to Arizona State and they win that game by 25, I could see a scenario in which Vegas favors Tech by 40 in that game because they know it's just going to be an absolute debacle. But 35.5 was the exact number that popped into my head.
Yeah, I like that little hook on there to make you think about it. Because I think most people would think that 35, okay, they'll at least push. But I think that gives you a little more to think about there. So Utah beat Arizona State last night? Is that right?
Yeah, Sam Levitt was out for Arizona State. So, yeah, Utah had a pretty easy time with them, I believe. The final was 42-10.
Did you see Utah had not won a Big 12 home game going into that game?
What?
Yeah. They had not won a Big 12 conference game at home.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, they were as bad as Oklahoma State was last year in conference. They had a bunch of injuries and stuff. They're 5-1 this year, coming off of 48-14 and 42-10 wins in back-to-back weeks against West Virginia and Sam Levitt-less Arizona State. But again, the 34-10 home loss to Texas Tech just kind of tells you where Tech is at, because it's entirely possible that those two teams meet in the Big 12 championship game, and I don't see any reason why Tech wouldn't beat them by 3 touchdowns again.
Yeah, I mean, Tech's proven me and a lot of people wrong that needed to see it. We're seeing it with them. They clearly have invested in the right players because they look easily the class of the Big 12. OU Texas, it's amazing how quickly narratives can change in the world of college football. Coming into that game, I believe this too. I'm not excluding myself. Like, it looked like Brent Venables had figured it out. He corrected the offense with Mateer and Arbuckle. Their defense was ranked number 1 in virtually every metric on defense. It's like, oh, wow, Brent Venables is now on firm footing. Well, then Saturday happens, and they now 3 of their last 4 games against Texas haven't scored a touchdown. In fact, they've scored a total of 9 points in 3 out of the last 4 times against Texas, and they've lost 3 out of the last 4. So it's almost like OU's right back to where they were with Brent Venables of, can this guy field a complete team, and can he be a head coach? Did you see the clock management at the end of the first half?
Brutal.
And that's the one thing that I've been hammering Brent Venables about since he became the head coach there, is like, they were one of the most undisciplined football teams you'll ever see. Penalties and just boneheaded mistakes and like all those things that come down to coaching. And his game management has been atrocious throughout his 4 years as the head coach there. So all of the things that we thought that OU has bounced back from, and they're back to being OU again and winning with defense, like, we're kind of right back to where we were, because their schedule, they like the remaining games on their schedule, everyone's ranked in the top 15. Missouri lost, so they'll drop out a little bit, but they lost at home to Alabama. So, like, they could go 7-5 easily.
Yeah, great start to the season for OU. Yesterday at the end of the first half, it was – I mean, look, I made my thoughts about Brent Venables' in-game coaching pretty clear after 2023 Bedlam. For those people who've been with us for a long time, that was the worst. The fourth quarter of that game was the worst coached game I've seen in a big game by any college football coach in a long time. And yesterday at the end of the first half, to just mismanage the clock like that, not call your timeout, and then run your quarterback out there in field goal position to just sling it up across your body to the back of the end zone into cover. it was dumbfounding what OU did at the end of the half yesterday. My wife's telling me she's on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. She's got coworkers that are calling for Brent Venables' job and all this stuff. And, look, yesterday didn't cost Brent Venables his job, but Brent Venables better figure it out. I mean, you mentioned it. They're at South Carolina this week. That's not a guarantee. The next week, they're home against fourth-ranked in the country, Ole Miss. All of a sudden, Ole Miss looks like a wagon. At number 12, Tennessee the following week. At number 8, Alabama the next week. Home against number 14, Missouri, late in November. And then home against number 11, LSU to close out the season. OU's defense is still very good. They're going to win a couple of those. But, man, yesterday was brutal. And Arch Manning, everybody was full on the Arch Manning as a bus train, myself included. He made a throw in the third quarter, Carson, that almost in a moment changed my opinion of him. I don't know if you remember this throw. It was 3rd and 9 from Texas's own 5-yard line when they were up 4, maybe 7 points. At this point, it was either 10-6 or 13-6. And from his own goal line, with pressure up the middle, he rolls right. They had a linebacker spying who's coming in his face. He rips one down the sideline, 30 yards in the air to his receiver, who taps his toes on the sideline for a 30-yard gain and a first down. And I think that they went on to score. They at least flip field position. Arch, in a low-scoring performance, had just a little bit of maybe a coming out party yesterday against Oklahoma, because the Arch Manning versus John Mateer competition was not even close. If you want to say he came back too fast from the injury, fine. He was throwing the ball fine. He was making bad decisions and putting the ball in harm's way over and over and over again. His 3 picks could have just as easily been 5.
Yeah, they really could have. And I thought Arch Manning played a great game, to your point. He really played well and answered a lot of critics. I think The Athletic was writing some sort of article that he's the biggest bust of all time.
Goofy.
The criticism was justified, but overwhelming, and he answered a lot of critics in that performance. He played really well. But I did think so. I was in the car for the closing minutes of that game, and I tuned into Teddy Lehman and Toby Rowland, who do just a fantastic job. I've always enjoyed listening to Teddy Lehman call a game, because he's not a homer at all. He will call a spade, and he basically he kind of gave it to Toby, tossed it to Teddy and said, what's been the difference here? And he mentioned Arch, which they just talked about. He's like, but for me, it was the fact that Oklahoma couldn't stop the run. He's like, no one's been able to do that to OU all year, and we couldn't stop it. They punched us in the mouth second half, and there was nothing we could do about it. And that's something we hadn't seen all year from OU with their defense. And I thought that. And typically, whoever wins the rushing game in that game, I think there's some crazy stat out there. The team that rushes for more yards wins 98% of the time, something crazy like that. And so OU's defense had played really well at this point. We're ranked number 1 in a lot of metrics. Well, they faced an opponent that they gave a lot more problems. And maybe that's why Tom Mateers look so good too. I mean, I know he played against Michigan. Michigan got lit up by USC last night. Auburn's a good defense, so he deserves credit there. But clearly not the Heisman front runner anymore. And I know he had the thumb. It's amazing he even played with the thumb surgery. He was bleeding during the game. So yeah, that really affected him. He was throwing behind guys, and he hadn't done that all year. But you're out there, you got to play. And he played terrible. So OU not quite back like many were predicting. But they're not out of it. I mean, you lose once to Texas on a neutral site game and a rivalry game. If they were able to, with their remaining schedule, they keep winning, they'll be fine. But it's amazing how flippantly, like I mentioned, or how quickly the narrative can flip like that.
Yeah, it's possible that they could lose 2 more times and still make the playoffs, depending on how it runs out for other teams throughout the season. Carson, we have one more game yesterday nationally that we have to talk about. I think you know which one it is, and I'm going to let you guess.
Oh, the Auburn game?
Nope. I'll give you a hint. You tweeted about it.
I did.
You did.
I tweeted about Auburn, Georgia.
You did. There is a guy, a dude in Indiana.
Kurt Signetti, he might be him. He might be the best coach in the country.
What Indiana is doing, what Indiana has done is unbelievable. I had zero, Carson, no faith that Indiana could go into Eugene and be competitive against Oregon, win that game. I thought, they could stick around for a while. Oregon would pull away. Indiana was the better football team. It was not fluky. Indiana went into that stadium, into Eugene, afternoon game in Autzen, pushed them around, beat them 30-20, and really were kind of in control the whole way, where it felt like Oregon was going to have to do something to overcome Indiana. Did not see that coming in the slightest. Curt Cignetti is officially the golden boy right now of college football. He has got Indiana cooking. And Carson, to sit here on October 12th and say that Indiana might be a national title contender, it feels weird coming out of my mouth. It doesn't feel right. It makes my body feel a little funny. But they just went to Oregon yesterday and handled what I thought was a top 3 team in the country. I can no longer disrespect Indiana. I can't do it. Curt Cignetti he's got him going.
Indiana was 1-72 all time in program history against top 5 teams. They were 0-46 on the road in those such games. And they had won 9 games in the previous 3 seasons combined before Cignetti, who all he did was win 11 his first year and make the playoff. And now they're clearly destined for the playoff the way they're playing. And he's 64 years old, Colby, but you could sign me up for Curt Cignetti in Stillwater if he wanted to make that move. I doubt he would with how things are rolling at Indiana, but it is weird because my mind always goes back to that Insight Bowl in Arizona that I covered as a student when Oklahoma State in 2007 just looked like an NFL team playing a Pop Warner team. I'll never forget the looks on those Indiana players' faces seeing what Des Bryant looked like in pads and attempting to cover a different life form than they had ever seen in the Big Ten with the Des Bryant. Like it was one of the biggest athletic mismatches I've ever seen at the Division I level. And so that's what I always have pictured Indiana being. So it is amazing, and Curt Cignetti's going to have a lot of offers, but he's certainly got Indiana rolling.
Yeah, and look, they had a 63-10 win over what was a 9th-ranked Illinois at the time. Was Illinois a little bit of a pretender? Maybe, but they went on the road. Or no, they beat USC at home. They beat USC at home, a USC team that trounced Michigan last night. And Illinois was reasonably competitive with number 1 Ohio State. They lost that game by 18 points yesterday. So Indiana's got a 63-10 win over Illinois on their resume and a 30-20 win at Oregon on their resume. There aren't too many teams with a better win in the country than what Indiana just got yesterday afternoon. So I'm curious to see where they'll be ranked this week because, man, they've got to be a top 5 team in the country. That's as impressive of a win as we've seen. Maybe you could argue Alabama at Georgia because Georgia had such a long home winning streak. But I think I would make the case for Indiana over Oregon as the most impressive college football win of the season.
Has to be. I mean, to go into Eugene and do that was incredibly impressive. So Curt Cignetti is the guy. Maybe that's a coach that's reached out to Chad Weiberg and he's interested. I don't know. 64 years old is not young, but I think to wrap up this show, I think what's clear is what Chad Weiberg wants is young and adaptive to the times, and so I don't think he'll be going after a Curt Cignetti, even though he is probably the best coach in the country. So I think Chad wants to kind of reset the program with a young coach who understands NIL and is all in on that, and that's where the direction they'll go. But man, he certainly has been impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier about these kids that won't even know who Brandon Weeden is. They weren't born, all that stuff. I really think Chad Weiberg is looking for somebody who doesn't know anything else. He's looking for a young coach who just like, oh, okay, this is what college football is. And I don't mean somebody that's going to be in their first year of coaching. He's not going to hire a 24-year-old. He's probably going to hire somebody in their 30s, maybe in their 40s, but a coach that just has been around this and is familiar with this and is comfortable with this. And I'm excited about whatever the future of Oklahoma State football is. And like I said earlier, we'll just have some fun in the meantime. And by the way, it's still okay to make fun of your OU friends. If they get salty, that's fine. If they want to yell about OSU football being bad, that's fine. We know we're bad. Y'all thought you were good, and it turns out you're bad. So yeah, it's okay. We can all still have our fun.
Yep, I'm showing the T-shirt fans again.
Nice.
Shout out to Section 231. Shout out to all the Oklahoma State fans that were there. Let's do it again. Let's do it again in homecoming. That'll be fun. I want to see like majority of the stadium do it next week.
Yeah, I won't be there next week. I've got MGA Cup, Carson, at the Greens. So we've got 36 holes Saturday and then 18 holes Sunday of singles. So it's the Ryder Cup style tournament. You have to qualify throughout the season. And I qualified for the second year in a row. So looking forward to that next weekend, which, if you're wondering, yes, it will interrupt our recording schedule. So we will get next week's Cincinnati recap pod to you when we can get it to you because I will be at the golf course.
Okie doke. Sounds good, Colby. We'll get with you next week to preview homecoming, and then good luck swinging the old sticks. And I'll get us out with the intro video once you're done.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Appreciate everyone joining us. Great stuff yesterday at Boone Pickens Stadium. A pretty good day of college football all around. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. As always, go Pokes.
We are back at it.
You expect to not get your teeth kicked in on your home field by Tulsa!
Champions of the Big 12.
This is not the 1980s OSU.
Zach Robinson, a lot of time going deep for Des.